The coaching staff makes a surprise decision that will surely have a massive impact on this roster and the season. That's where we start on this episode of Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Patriots fans? I'm your host, Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England, host of the Everything Pats podcast, co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles, and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, once rumored to be on the trading block, a certain Patriot seems to have solidified his roster spot. Meanwhile, an old problem for a young rookie pops up at camp. But first, a fascinating choice has been made by this Patriots coaching staff. We appreciate you joining the show and making us your first listen. For being an everydayer, the Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The staff has made its first, what I would consider, surprise roster decision for the 2025 season, and that surprise decision is Jarrod Wilson being your starting left guard. Pretty interesting stuff. Andrew Callahan posted today, the Patriots seem eager to start rookie offensive lineman Jarrod Wilson at left guard with no Garrett Bradbury today. Wilson, who had been the backup center, is at left guard with the starting offense, and third stringer Ben Brown is snapping to Drake May. Mark Daniels of Mass Live posted, strange move from left guard to backup center. Jarrod Wilson is the top left guard with Ben Brown at center. Let me first say this before I get into why I believe this is a surprising decision made by the coaching staff. Let me just say, this is crazy impressive. Like, this is almost banana land stuff for Jarrod Wilson. And here's why. We all know he's a rookie. He's a rookie, and he happens to be a rookie who won the left guard gig in 5 days. That's all it took him, was 5 days. He wasn't on the field much, if at all, at OTAs. He wasn't on the field much, if at all, at mandatory minicamp. He missed all that time on the field. He's not repping physically. And then you get to training camp, and he was actually taking snaps at left guard. He started at left guard at yesterday's practice. So that's 5 practices. One of those 5 practices was a walkthrough, and there he is. It took him 5 days to win the starting job. And we all expect him to be the starting left guard because of the decision that was made today. If the Patriots weren't thinking of him as the starting left guard, they would have just put him at center, because they would have said, no, Cole Strange right now is the starting left guard. So Bradbury's out. We put Wilson at center. We're not messing around with Cole Strange. So the fact that they made the decision that they made today tells us, as of right now, of course, this could change, might change weeks from now, but I find that hard to believe, because if the coaching staff was as impressed as it looks like they were with Wilson, to give him this position, to give him this responsibility after missing OTAs and minicamp and only being at camp for 5 days, to make this decision now tells us that this staff feels really, really good about Wilson, and they believe he's the guy who should be starting. This happened so quickly. He was drafted as a center out of Georgia. I mean, just 3 months ago, he was drafted. And at Georgia, he started 1 year at center. And 3 months ago, when Wilson was drafted, we were all talking about him being in the center competition and maybe beating out Bradbury. But now it looks like he had an opportunity to possibly be the starting center, but the Patriots decided we like him at guard. So we're going to make him the starting left guard. This has happened so quickly, and it speaks to the intelligence of Wilson, the work ethic of Wilson, the fact that he stayed engaged while he couldn't be on the field, which is critical, especially to Mike Vrabel. So this is tremendously impressive by Jarrod Wilson. Here's why I'm surprised. I thought the Patriots on paper had more depth at guard than they had at center. If you look at guard, you've got Sidy Sow, who left practice early today, by the way, but they didn't know that when practice was starting. You have Sidy Sow, You've moved Caden Wallace from tackle to guard. You have Tyrese Robinson, who put somebody on his butt today. You've got Layden Robinson, even though he's falling back significantly. But that's 4 guys right there. And then you say, oh, well, we got Cole Strange. So you have 5 to 6 guys who could play a guard position for you. You look at center, it was Bradbury, Wilson, and Ben Brown. Bradbury out. We'll see how long. Alec Lindstrom, by the way, former Boston College center, was at camp. He was on the field. So it looks like the Pats have brought somebody from the outside in, which probably tells us this Bradbury situation is going to take a stretch of time here. So you move Bradbury out for now, and you're left with Ben Brown. And the team, the coaching staff, and obviously Doug Marrone and Haas, Jason Hotailing, and Robert Kugler, the offensive line coaches on this staff, they had a decision. Vrabel had a decision. McDaniels had a decision. They all got together and said, no, let's actually move Cole Strange to backup center. Let's keep Wilson at left guard 1, and let's bring in Alec Lindstrom to be, I would say right now, the emergency center. And we will just kind of roll with Ben Brown right now as the top center. So you had a lot of shifting going on to make this move possible. It would have been the easier move to have Strange be left guard 1 and have Wilson just stick at center and bump up from backup centers to starting center. So it's interesting because of the depth of this roster and where you're looking at some of the weak points. And I'm not telling you that the guards are extra deep and great, but you have more bodies and you have more guys that have proven themselves at the NFL level than you have at center, especially with Bradbury not in the mix right now. And so why? Why did the staff make this decision? Why is this happening right now? There could be plenty of options. Let's begin with Occam's razor. I used to work with Adam Jones on 98.5, and Jonesy loves Occam's razor, right? The most simple explanation is the right explanation, pretty much. Occam's razor would tell you this. Patriots just think that Wilson's a better left guard than he is center. The KISS method, right? Keep it simple, silly. Be nice on this podcast today. The KISS method. Keep it simple. We think Wilson's a better guard than he is center, so we're going to keep him at left guard. We want our best 5 out there. We want the best 5 offensive linemen out there to start week 1. Wilson is one of our best guards on this team, and we want him there instead of center just because of that. This could also just be a short-term thing. This could be a 2025 thing. Maybe the Patriots feel like Wilson right now, rookie season, a little less to deal with at left guard, can focus on just kind of more the execution in the football than all the other elements that come with being a center. And we've talked about it before. Wilson, inexperienced at center, only started 1 year at Georgia at center. He was a guard before he became a center. So it's not like he has 0 experience at guard. But maybe this is more short-term, and then maybe next year they move Wilson to center and they find somebody at left guard that they like more, which leads me to the possibility of this staff just saying to themselves, you know what? Cole Strange ain't it. Cole Strange ain't it. We don't like Strange at guard. We don't like him at least as the top guard on the left side. We think that could create some problems. He has not won us over. So Cole Strange ain't it. The next best option is Wilson, because Caden Wallace is switching positions. So it could be easy. That the Occam's razor is Wilson's just better at left guard. Strange isn't it. And you make the move. Other possibilities, rookie Wilson at center with this offensive system that, there's a lot involved with it. You had some early camp issues with the center to quarterback exchange between Wilson and May. That could have played a role. Maybe they saw that and said, look, we don't want to put too much on this kid's plate. Remember, you go back and we heard Elliott Wolf talk about Jalen Polk earlier this offseason and say that they felt like they put too much on his plate and that overwhelmed him. So maybe that's it. But I find it hard to believe that they think Wilson would be overwhelmed, because don't forget, after him switching back and forth from center to left guard, they also said, hey, how about you play some right guard as well? So it feels like they don't believe this young man could get overwhelmed. So it could have been the snap issues. It could just be Occam's razor. But here's the end result. Right now, it seems like 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen are set. Feels like Campbell, Wilson, Owenu, and Moses are set. And it feels like your left side is locked down. And if you like Wilson enough at left guard, your left side could be locked down for the next decade. So shout out to Jared Wilson. He's been terrific. Surprising decision. I'm cool with it. To tell me that, you drafted Wilson with a top 100 pick and within 5 days you feel good enough to start him. All right. Seems like you hit on the pick. All right, from being on the block to helping run it, a Patriots job seems much more secure than we might have thought. We explain next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. I mean, let's be honest. Some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I haven't gotten the best sleep lately. I could use that boost. I could use that energy. Check out 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. I mean, golf, if you want to go back to that, it's about good times with good people. Good flavors, of course, as well. And the grape and ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the Bev card. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONNFL to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Kayshon Boutte has clearly been the number one option at X receiver through the first week of training camp. And the question seems like if it's locked in. Just talked about this idea of Jared Wilson, for all intents and purposes, seemingly locking in at left guard. Well, is Boutte locked in at that X spot? John Lyons of the New England Football Journal and WEEI Radio posted today from camp multiple times in 12 personnel, that's 2 tight ends, 12 personnel, in drills, and 11 on 11, Boutte has been one of the 2 wide receivers. Sometimes Boutte is with Diggs, sometimes he's with Kyle Williams. As Lyons points out, that tells me the team views Boutte as one of their 2 best wide receivers overall. Because even when you go with personnel packages and you switch them up a little bit, when you go 12 personnel with 2 tight ends and you only have 2 receivers on the field, there's one guy that stays on the field. And that one guy is Boutte. Whether it's with Diggs or it's with Williams, Boutte's out there. And, the question begs to be asked, why is this happening? How is this happening? Kayshon Boutte, around draft time, was being mentioned in trade rumors. There were people telling us that Boutte was available, that the Patriots were open to trading Kayshon Boutte, and that he was on the block. And he goes from being on the block to helping run the block now in the first week of camp. And let's begin with giving the player credit. Much like the Jared Wilson conversation last segment, let's give Boutte some credit here. In 2024, given the circumstances, we know him, the offensive line, the play calling, the fellow receivers, the up and down, shaky quarterback play. Boutte caught 43 footballs, 43 catches, 589 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not great numbers, not spectacular. Those numbers aren't going to make you run out of your house and run up and down the street to yell about Kayshon Boutte to your neighbors. Let's not get crazy here. Let's not lose it, shall we? But given the circumstances, that's a pretty solid season for Boutte. And frankly, when we talk about players taking steps from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, there's no doubt. From his rookie season to year 2, Kayshon Boutte took a step, which is pretty impressive given the on-field circumstances that I just brought up. Also, the coaching questions. last year's wide receivers coach, I'm not even sure if he has a job right now. He is certainly not coaching a position in the NFL. So that's pretty impressive if you really look at it. And maybe I did not give enough credit to that season because it was so bad last year. But I also think this is about Booty right now and the details. Vrabel's big on details. This coaching staff is big on details. And if you can understand the details and you can help with the details, you have a better chance to have a role on this football team. And when you look at Booty, one of the things that he can do is block. And according to reports, Booty has been a willing blocker through the first week of camp. He doesn't mind getting his nose dirty. And that tells me Booty understands the mission. He gets it. There's 12 wide receivers in camp. And with that numbers game, you're going to have to do everything you can do to try to win a job. And if Booty's out there and he's blocking, and that's why he's in the 12 personnel groupings, because he's blocking. If that's the case, then that tells me he understands he's going to do things that receivers might not love doing. But he's going to jump in and do it because he wants to play football at the professional level. So it's the details. And he also has the X skill set. He can get down the field. He's not the greatest contest catch guy in the world, but you know, he can get down the field, and he's got good size, 5'11", 6 feet tall. So he kind of fits that. But there are other things at force here in factoring in. Let's look at the fact at X receiver, it's not like you are overwhelmed with options. Now, you drafted Kyle Williams, and Williams has mostly played on the outside through the first week of camp, but he's a rookie, and he's been running hot and cold. Had a big-time touchdown catch today from Drake May, but he also had a drop on a back shoulder. He's had a couple of drops in a couple of the prior practices. Drops were a question for him at college last year. So he's been running a little hot and cold, and he's a rookie. He's got to earn that spot. He's got to earn taking snaps away from Booty. So you got the rookie, might take him some time. Stephon Diggs at this point in his career is mostly a slot receiver. He played mostly slot last year in Houston. Pop Douglas has played more on the outside in this camp and more on the outside during OTAs and minicamp than he did the prior 2 years, but it's not like you're going to play Pop Douglas 40% of the time outside. That's McDaniels loves moving his receivers around. He loves, versatility, try to keep the defense on their toes. So you'll see occasionally Pop Douglas out there, but they know Pop is mostly going to eat in the slot when you got, 3 receiver sets or 4 receiver sets. That he's going to be lined up on the inside for the most part. He can move around every once in a while, but he's not your exclusive X receiver. Right? That's not going to happen. Kendrick Bourne is also kind of a move receiver. Not necessarily the prototypical X guy. And I think, in my mind, McDaniels looks at Bourne as kind of another Diggs. And then you've got, Jalen Polk, who's back at practice. He's been there the last 2 practices, and he has, done some work, which is nice. He's actually been, I think, at the last 3 practices now. And, he's getting going a little bit. He has a touchdown. He's got a couple of catches, nothing to write home about just yet, but he's out there and he's involved. And because he's out there, that tells us the coaching staff believes that he did the work he needed to do when he was away from the field. And he does have some X in him as well. He's got great hand-eye coordination, at least in college. He can make contested catches downfield. He did that at Washington. He's got good size. But obviously, because of 2024 and the fact that he just got back this week, he's behind the 8 ball. And then you've got Mac Hollins, who's injured currently. So it's not like they have a plethora of options at the X. So that's part of this story. And I would also remind people it's still early. One guy I did not bring up is Javon Baker. Baker's actually popped with a couple of plays here and there. He made a quote-unquote Randy Moss-esque catch during yesterday's practice. He mossed Marcellus Dial, I think it was. So he mossed Dial in the end zone, and he's made a couple of plays, but Baker is also, Javon Baker. He has his ups and his downs. He makes those plays, and then he lacks focus and drops a football, makes a mistake. But if Baker could somehow, some way find some consistency, then maybe he's part of this, solution at X. Does it click with Kyle Williams? By the time we get to the Minnesota joint practice, is Williams looking comfortable? Is Polk a factor at all? So we've still got time, but I'm telling you right now, it would be tough. It would be tough to draw up a scenario where Booty by week 1 is not a part of this thing. Feels like he's got some pretty decent job security right now. We'll see if that continues to be the case. And that is, to me, somewhat surprising given that he was on the block reportedly 3 months ago. A rocky day for a pivotal Pat, while another keeps cooking teammates and a relative unknown gets some reps with the ones. That's all next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one single place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Not too shabby, right? I mean, imagine how everything can change having just one app to make it easier to manage your money on a day-to-day basis. That's what we're talking about with Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. It took a week. And it took me yapping about Will Campbell and pumping the tires. It took a week for Will Campbell's college kryptonite to show up at NFL camp. And that's what happened earlier today. Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald posted, good news, Chaisson just tallied 2 sacks and 1 pressure in a 4-play stretch. Bad news, both sacks came at Will Campbell's expense. Mark Daniels posted, Chaisson beat up on Campbell. John Lyons posted, Campbell is having some trouble with inside speed / spin moves from Chaisson. And this should not be a surprise. Leading into the draft, myself and many others talked about Campbell. And if you watch the film, everybody spent a lot of time about the arm length, lack thereof, wingspan, yada, yada. But it wasn't necessarily dealing with the outside rush. When you watch Campbell's film from LSU, when he had some issues, and everybody talks about the sack numbers, I get it, but you also have to look at the pressure numbers. And when you look at the sacks and the pressures, and you watch the film, Campbell had some of his toughest moments, if not his toughest moments. Speed to the inside. And so that showed up on his film. That was known. And so it should not be a surprise that K'Lavon Chaisson, who is a very good athlete, ends up beating up Will Campbell with speed and spin moves to the inside. That should not be a shocker. That is something that needs improvement. If you were to do a write-up on Will Campbell, I think the number one thing that he has control over that he needs to improve on is exactly that. Stopping the speed inside rush. Here's the good news, because it wasn't a great day, especially at the beginning for Campbell, and the kryptonite popped up. But here's the good news. Campbell can improve. He can improve. And he's got the athleticism, the freakish athleticism. He's got the great feet. He's got an incredible IQ. So he has some of the answers. He's just got to find those answers consistently, grow some confidence, and really adapt to the speed of the NFL game. Now, there are some silver linings to Campbell struggling a little bit to start training camp today. There's some silver linings. Mark Daniels, back to him. Mass Live does a great job with Karen Garigian and company. After one rough 11-on-11 period, Campbell played better. I had him clean over the last 2 periods. So this has been a running theme so far in this camp. And it's one that I think is very important. Will Campbell has shown that early slip-ups, early rough assignments, getting dumped on his tuchus by Keion White, for example, a couple of practices ago, getting his tuchus handed to him by Chaisson to begin this practice today. He has shown that he does not allow those early slip-ups, those early rough patches. He does not allow those to follow on through and become an issue. He actually follows up those tough stretches with solid, steady play. And that's important because it shows mental toughness. It shows mental toughness, but it also shows a level of maturity. He's only 21 years old. And how many young professional athletes have we seen when they struggle, it gets in their head and they just continue to struggle. It picks up steam, it goes downhill, and they're just a mess. Saw it with Jalen Polk last year. So to be able to get through that, to know, okay, I just got thrown to the ground by Keion White. He just dumped me, threw me out the club. To be, frankly, embarrassed a few times by Chaisson. But to get over that and say, no, I believe in my ability. I have confidence in my ability. I have the mental toughness. That shows a lot. Shows a lot. He's still learning. He's going to be learning for a while. He's a young dude. And I would also mention that it was, shorts and shells today. And so it wasn't as if this was a full padded practice where it seems Campbell and the rest of the offensive line has a little bit better of a job sledding. And just to underline the fact that Campbell has shown improvement after a rough stretch, and on the balance, he's been pretty good. John Lyons agrees with me. He posted, I think Campbell has done really well most of camp, especially against bull rushes and outside rushes. And I would agree with that. All in all, he's done well. He's had some rough reps, but he's a 21-year-old rookie left tackle. So he's also had some really great moments that we talked about on yesterday's episode. All right. Meanwhile, Chaisson is cooking cats. This dude's like Emeril Lagasse, and it's like he's in his prime. Let's just say Guy Fieri. It's like Guy Fieri in his prime. He's Bobby Flay. Any more cooks, throw them at me. Got any more cook names? Got any more cook names? Chaisson is cooking dudes at this camp. I mean, he is dominating. And Callahan, Andrew Callahan from Boston Herald, he posted that, Chaisson's been the undisputed breakout star of this camp. The undisputed breakout star. And he could end up being found money, which would be great. You get a guy on a 1-year deal, short money, and he's dominating camp. That's great news. And by the way, it's not just the pass rush juice. Greg Bedard yesterday wrote that Chaisson had 2 sacks in the team. Seems to be a real pain in the butt to block, even in the run game, where he was featured in goal line somewhat surprisingly over Anthony Jennings. So Chaisson is getting time on goal line, which tells us the Patriots aren't afraid of his run defense, at least, or they want to see if they should be afraid of his run defense. And Chaisson, if he gets more time at defensive end than just being a sub pass rusher, that opens up the versatility of the defensive line. Back to Bedard, he wrote about Keion White yesterday. White, he tied for a team high 4 reps, and he rushed from a different spot each time. He rushed from right end, left end, nose tackle, defensive tackle. And so, just imagine this, that the games that the defense can play, Terrell Williams, that defensive line, you've got so much versatility. And if Chaisson can hold up against the run, that's even more of a nightmare for offensive lines. One more quick note, DJ Adams, keep an eye on him. He got some reps with the ones, young cornerback. He's had a really good camp. He got beat today for a touchdown. I believe that was the Williams play. But some reps with the ones. He's been a ball magnet. He's a 6th-round pick from last year, made by Seattle. And maybe the Patriots found a little bit of a gem here. Maybe. Or maybe he just ends up being a fun early camp story that flames out when we get to joint practices. But Adams has made some plays, and we keep an eye on him because, no Davis, no Gonzalez right now. He's been getting serious reps, including, as I mentioned, with the ones. He's getting opportunities. Guys like Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial, Adams, they're getting opportunities, and they've played pretty well given the circumstances. So keep an eye on Adams. See if it becomes more than just a fun story. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Reach out to me on Twitter at Nick C Radio. Don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for being an everydayer, making Locked On Patriots your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Lee Sterling, Kevin Rogers do a great job. MLB Locks, can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.